Hey, YouTube. Well, this is going to be a serious story. It's a touchy story, something I went through. The only reason I ended up on YouTube or making YouTube videos is because there's one person, uh, I'm not going to say his name, but there was this thing about HIV and transmission and outing someone because of their not telling someone else about their HIV status. And it was a big thing. I made like 8 videos with this guy. So I never intended really to be on this thing. I just jumped up one day and just started giving my opinion about that particular situation. So I landed on my front door now. So the story is the Young Turks. I like that show. It's an internet show commentary. So I hate that they have a different opinion than me. Supposed to agree with everything I say, but they just gave us this story about an hour ago. So just so I'm clear, I'm going to play a little bit of their clip, and then I want to discuss it. Okay, so hold on a second.
California are looking to pass legislation that would roll back penalties for people who have HIV or AIDS and knowingly transmit it to other people. Now, on its face, this sounds like a really bad idea, especially when you consider that knowingly transmitting the virus is a felony. They want to roll it back to a misdemeanor. So under California's newly introduced Senate Bill 239, intentionally transmitting any infectious or communicable disease, including HIV, would be a misdemeanor, not a felony. Now, the thinking behind this is, well, why do we have a double standard? When it comes to other sexually transmitted diseases, it's considered a misdemeanor if you knowingly transmit it, but we treat AIDS or HIV very differently. It's considered a felony. And they feel that it's a discriminatory policy that needs to be reformed. They think it, of course, attacks the LGBT community and disproportionately, and so we need to do something to change it. But I don't know. What do you think about this?
Mixed feelings. So one, HIV is potentially lethal, making it different, irrational reason to make it different than the other diseases. And secondly, the idea of knowingly transmitting it is so heinous. Who would do that to another person and be indifferent to their lives? Now, the flip side is, in reality and in practice, are they more likely to use it against people that are in the LGBT community? Yes.
Yeah.
So that's why you really got to put a lot of thought behind it before you make different rules for different diseases.
Yeah. So let me show you how in California it disproportionately impacts minorities and women as opposed to white males. Okay. So
this goes on. It's a 6-minute video. You guys can check it out. It's called The Young Turks. And I want to add something to this conversation because my thing is this, and this is the point that I had made a few months ago. When you say that it is a felony to pass HIV, to knowingly pass HIV to your partners, on the surface that may sound fine. It seems like a terrible thing to do. But I think the effect of that could be, well, first of all, let me say this. I live in California. Those laws are not enforced very strictly. I mean, every once in a while we hear of a story who is someone who has got HIV and is going around to many, many people, and particularly when they cross the homosexual, heterosexual line to many, many people, they may get prosecuted. But it doesn't happen that often. Frankly, before I started researching for that, when I got so upset about it months ago, I wasn't even aware that those laws were still in California. So for a certain amount of people, that law would probably fit them if they were doing it intentionally. Most people are not doing it intentionally. My thing is this. People need to test for HIV. They need to test for HIV, and people who are not HIV need to be taking better care of themselves. Now, here's why. Or part of the reason why I feel. I'm not going to get into every thought I have about it, but and I'm not a sexual person. I don't have sex. So I don't have any skin in this. I haven't been sexual for many years. But the thing is the knowing part. You can be convicted of a felony in the current law if you knowingly pass HIV to another person. Okay, so what about the people who are not documented for having HIV? They can't be charged with anything. If you do not get tested for HIV and you're just out having sex with a lot of people without any protection or anything else, nothing is going to happen to you unless you know it. And the only way they're going to judge if you know it is if you have got documentation saying that you have been tested positive for HIV. So what is the very hypersexual person going to do? They just ain't going to test. In other words, many people, a lot of people's psyche, they don't want to know. They don't want to alter their sex life. They don't want to use condoms. They are reckless people. But they, as long as they don't know, they can't be charged with anything. So the person who tests, who does his medications, or the person who tests and is on medication, if he has sex with somebody, rubber breaks, two lovers, they get in an argument, they disagree, and one wants to get even with the other one. Any of those kind of cases, somebody gets caught having sex with boys and infected their wife, and they want to blame it on the person who's positive. In all those scenarios, wait a minute, I'm trying to get my thinking right here. Okay, in all of those scenarios, they can be prosecuted and sent to prison for several years. A felony can send you to prison for many years, particularly if you've done it more than once. But if you don't test and you don't officially know your status, nothing. That's why these strict laws on HIV should be lessened, in my opinion. It should be. You have sex. People, we got to wise up. I'm already positive, too late. I don't have sex anyway. But people who are negative right now, you're going to have to treat people when you have sex with people like they're positive. Now, she said in this article that the predominant part of the people who are being prosecuted for this kind of case are women. Well, we all know what that means, prostitutes. So you have a man who's going out and having sex with prostitutes, not wearing protection, coming back to his wife, giving his wife a disease he picked up from a prostitute, and it's her responsibility because she didn't say she was HIV positive. You should have assumed she's HIV positive. If she's having sex with 10, 15 people a day, what do you think she is? Come on, people. So, I don't know where they at with this, but I'm hoping that, yes, the law should be lessened. And I don't think it's going to be prosecuted, but if you, very often, but if you knowingly, for real knowingly, are putting HIV in people, then of course that's a different thing. It's like a manslaughter. You know, you're going to have problems. But if you're just a person who's positive, something happens, rubber breaks, you were drunk, whatever, I don't think you should be put in prison for the rest of your life or for 15, 20 years. I just don't believe that. I think it's the responsibility of you, and it's the responsibility of the person who is negative and wants to stay negative. It's both of your responsibility. How you gonna go out and have sex with prostitute after prostitute, and then you're gonna bring the prostitute because she got a communal disease. You know how that stuff gets passed. HIV became so huge because people did not even know that they were positive. That's why it passed. So now you're gonna criminalize them knowing. That is what the felony is. The felony is not that you had sex with somebody and they became HIV positive. That is not the felony. The felony is that you knew you were HIV positive and you passed this on. So if somebody goes out and parties and goes out and drinks and do ecstasy in the club and all that kind of stuff like that, the worst thing that can happen to them is if they test positive. Because after they test positive, their whole life is under a microscope. One slip up could end up in prison. So it's just something else to think about. I'm sure that if they're going to present this as changing the laws, it's going to be gone over well. It's going to be well thought out. They're going to have lawyers arguing on both sides. And if it makes sense, if it's unreasonable to be sending people all the way to prison for years, many years, from having sex, make your argument. But I'm glad it's coming before the courts or for the Congress, how they will work it. Okay, you're not going to agree with everybody. We're not all going to agree on everything, you know. But there's real crime going on there. You under the current law, you could be sentenced for more time for this than you can be sentenced for doing drive-by shootings. Is it right? Food for thought.